Hello, I'm William WhiteCrow, your host, and welcome to Quantum Quest Radio, the show that entwines science, the spirit, and time itself to bring you closer to true reality. And today's show is sponsored by the Crow's Place Store. And you can get there by simply going to WilliamWhiteCrow.com, going to the top menu, clicking on the Crow's Place Store, and you're there. This is a place where service and high-quality herbal products are the name of the game, and new products are being bought all the time. Did you know that a lot of the herbal supplements and everything you get in Walmart and places like that have fillers in them? Yes, they do. So if you want something that's top of the line and fresh and quality, go to the Crow's Place Store at WilliamWhiteCrow.com and punch it in. We got everything you need, essential oils and everything. And also from NorthwestSafetyandSecurity.com, the place that takes your personal, home, and business safety and security needs seriously. New products are being added there all the time, but right now you can go there and check out our dash cams, bug detectors, complete home security systems, as well as battery-operated outdoor early warning systems for every need. These are things for everybody, low cost and high cost. It just depends on what you need. We have it. And talk about personal defense items, bingo, we're top of the line. Okay, in the news today, North Korea and the U.S. again. Isn't it interesting how President Trump had turned around and talked to the Chinese leader? They are sitting there eating cake, as they say, and he just tells the Chinese leader that he launched 50 Tomahawk missiles into Syria. That would make me think real big if I was a leader of another country going, what? The fact of the matter is, China has now amassed over 50,000 troops on the North Korean border between China and North Korea. Something is going to happen, my friends, and Trump is determined to go in and take care of business on his own. Will nuclear weapons be used? Will Kim Jong-un be able to turn around and get one or two of those nukes off and hit South Korea? Maybe Japan, one of our bases there. And what's China going to do when that happens? This is going to get sticky, definitely. Okay, I want to talk about the chemical attacks in Syria. We touched on them a little bit and on last news segment. And we're finding out through sources on the ground that basically, like I said before, that these chemical weapons were in an ammo dump that the rebels had. And Assad had bombed that chemical dump, and that's exactly how those weapons got set off. Now, it's interesting the CIA and other intelligence agencies are turning around telling people, oh, this is, we got this information. Well, come on, prove it. Put it on the table. Let's see what's going on. Are you just dragging us into another war? Because this is the same thing that happened to Obama, but he backed off on it. We sent 50 cruise missiles or more, and now Russia is moving its fleet into that area. So we got two hotspots in the world here. And we know one is willing to use this nuclear weapons just because. And with that said, we're done into the news. And tonight's guest is a good friend of mine. He's a student, been a student for a long time. I'll let him introduce himself here in a minute. And he's experienced a lot of things with me. We've had some good talks. He's been researching UFOs, paranormal, extraterrestrials, everything you could think of throughout his lifetime. But he's had a lot of personal experiences with me and by himself. He has had contact with a particular major, and I will let him explain these things to you and how he put myself, the major, and a couple other programs together, figured things out, and how he figured out that I was still working in the programs for a period of time. And with that said, I'd like to bring my good friend and student on for, 17 years now, Wally? Something like that? Wally.
Something like that.
Yeah, Wally Chisholm. We call him Whirlwind, like a tornado. He's a great guy. So, Wally, introduce yourself. It's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Hey, bud. Well, anyway, Wally Chisholm, a.k.a. Whirlwind. Basically, I was given my name by one of the Lakota elders here in the area, Roger, I can't forget.
That's okay.
Roger Kaufman.
Mm-hmm.
And after we had an experience, me and Bill had an experience on Mount Shasta. I guess starting this all out, I started dealing with an Army major by the name of James Francis Holt, now deceased.
And he was in the Army?
Yeah. U.S. Army. Matter of fact, he was, my understanding, your boss, wasn't he?
You keep digging, yeah. Definitely, yeah. Go ahead.
Well, I learned about me and him got together in Central Valley, California. He was doing some stuff on a BBS, one of the bulletin boards in the area, and we had met through the bulletin board and come to find out that he lived there in Central Valley with me, and was invited over to his house. And at that time, he was, how do you explain, James? He seemed confused.
Okay.
Is the best way I can put it. And he wanted me to do some research for him, just off the cuff, because I had an interest. My dad, to my understanding, back in the 50s...
One question, Wally. One question. What type of research did he want you to do?
He wanted me to help him connect some dots. He was, what I come to find later, they call it dream walking.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Where, to my understanding, it's where the aliens or ETs are able to brainwash somebody, where they basically lose their past memories, basically their past memories.
So they wipe them clean.
Yeah. And he got into a car wreck and started doing he started getting flashbacks.
Mm-hmm.
And when we first started talking, he would say, okay, I want you to look at tunnel systems. And he wouldn't really go into detail of what the tunnel systems were.
Are these the same tunnel systems that you and I have talked about?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Basically what it is that, to my understanding, they have what's called deep underground military bases here in the continental United States. And what they have these connecting tunnel systems that run from, let's say, Dulce, New Mexico, St. Alamos.
Los Alamos
Labs, and to various military bases here in California. The one tunnel system leading up through Mount Lassen and up through Mount Shasta,
mm-hmm.
going on up. But he led me for about 5 years through different topics to help him get his memories back.
I understand. And that's a good way to do it.
Well, and then he started talking to me about the Dragon Slayers. Now, to my understanding, that's where you and him met.
Go ahead. We've had this conversation. So, I know you're trying. I'm trying to let you tell your story instead of me, jumping in and telling, all of mine. So, just so the listeners can get a point of view from somebody that I've dealt with.
Right.
I'm sorry, I missed that. What?
You got to try, don't you?
Oh, yeah, you do. I know you do.
Fish for some more information.
Okay, go ahead, Wally.
James was totally different than you were, because with James, it was fairly open, the different conversations that we had. Mm-hmm. To my understanding, the Dragon Slayers in Vietnam were the ones that they were LARPs or LERPs?
LERPs. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And basically, these guys were going out and taking out high-profile targets. That was one of their primary missions. But their secondary missions, to my understanding, were to retrieve downed UFOs.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Very good.
And how I started getting into his, his background and how he became, to my understanding, chief of security for the Pacific Coast.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, all the secret bases on the Pacific Coast, he was one of the people responsible for those areas. And we had conversations of him and J-Rod,
which
was, to my understanding, at Area 51, James was responsible for the human, or the human side of the base, and then, to my understanding, the opposite, J-Rod was in charge of all the extraterrestrials.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my understanding. We basically conversed, as I say, for 5 years with different topics, ranging from underground bases to extraterrestrials, you name it.
So when you were working with, what were you thinking all of this time that he was telling you this stuff and having you dig?
I thought he was crazier than a bedbug.
Okay. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Then, me and James and I can't remember, Bonnie, was going to meet a guy that was currently in the programs that James had worked with at the base. Evidently, he was doing repair work on the base over at Eureka.
Okay.
Fondale. Off the coast of Fondale.
Okay.
And to my understanding, it was an underground sub-base. And supposedly, him and this other gentleman, he's a lieutenant, he was designated a lieutenant, to do advanced electronic work at this facility that Jim was taking care of. And they, to my understanding, they have what they call shadows.
I understand. Yeah, somebody that follows them and keeps track.
Right. Mm-hmm. And evidently he walked away from his shadow and got into parts of the base that he wasn't supposed to be in, and got his ass got put in front of James and to get his ass royally chewed. Mm-hmm. Because he wasn't supposed to walk away from his shadow. Mm-hmm. And but supposedly this is where I started learning about Area 51, because this lieutenant started telling me about the Green Door, which is, to my understanding, the entry point to the city Phoenix, which is the underground underneath Area 51.
Mm-hmm. Okay. You're doing fine. My question here is, once you started understanding and you're digging into this Area 51, and we've talked about Dulce and things of this nature before, and you started putting dots together, how did you figure out that James and I had worked together, or we were in the same program?
Well, I thought my understanding was that you and him were part of the Dragon Slayers.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and we've had many conversations about that. But what kind of gave you the inkling more so to even start talking about that with me? I mean, did something he said and something I said become familiar?
Well, I really didn't connect the dot with you and him until after James had passed.
Okay.
I don't think during the time that me and you it was after. Mm-hmm. It was 90 when me and you got together.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so James had just passed away, and
That's okay.
I can't remember how we made contact, other than I know it was at the Jolly Giant here in Reading.
I remember when I told you, "Don't worry about the people around us. We're not here." And,
it was so surreal because we were standing in the middle of this hallway, and there were people passing us, and it was like they were totally, no eye contact, no nothing. They were totally oblivious of us being there.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like they just kept on walking.
Mm-hmm.
That was the very first time that we had met. And the second time was when you told me approximately where you lived.
Right.
Out in Idaho.
Mm-hmm.
So, following your instructions, I got within a half mile of your house, and your kids ran into me.
Yeah.
And they said, "Dad's not home right now." And to find your house in the first place is like, jeez. Well, there's a rabbit. Once you see the rabbit, make a right turn. And it's like, damn. To get there is like a road and a half. All dirt road,
mm-hmm.
out in the middle of nowhere.
Hey, I got my own lake.
Yeah.
Okay, we've had a lot of conversations and things, and with a lot of people, and we've experienced. What is one of the things to you that stood out that things were different? Because we worked together as a shaman and a student. I was teaching you the old ways and the ways of energy and meditations and used kind of my store all the time, and we'd practice and people. You were there. What was Two Feathers? He was there one day, as a matter of fact, and a lady came in. Remember Karen? I think, or Carol was her name. And you guys were showing her how to do energy, and I walked up behind her. She didn't hear me, and I just put my hand out. She about jumped off the floor. So when you first started getting experiences, what are some of the experiences that you had that stood out that just weren't normal?
Well, it was weird. The first time that me and you were, when we were going to Mount Shasta,
mm-hmm.
when me and you were doing the jerky business.
Uh-huh.
The energy in the truck, luckily I had my brakes away from you, because the energy in the truck, it was like, it was electrifying. It was the energy, the amount of energy that was in that truck. It was just like, oh my God, you had to take a break and get away from it.
Sure.
It was overwhelming. But that was the time in 2000 when me and you went up there to the old ski bowl.
That when the bean was up on the hill.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, to my understanding, there were four of them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there was the one that was up on almost looked like an altar to me, or a place that a person would step up onto, and they would be higher than the rest of everybody else. I couldn't see the person. I couldn't
mm-hmm. see
anything that was up there, but I could feel the energy from that person. And pinpoint. I said, he's right there.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And then when you said, well, I'm going to do some sage. So you grabbed the sage wand off the front of the truck, and you lit the wand up and started, slinging it in front, or kind of moving it in front of me. I'm going, what the hell are you doing?
That's the first time you've been sage. That's true. I forgot about that. Okay.
And he says, I'm purifying you. And I'm like, purifying you? What do you mean? And you said, go with it, go with it. I said, all right. So you said lift my arms up. So I lifted my arms up, and you waved it under my arms and waved it under my legs and my feet. And finally you got done, and you took the sage wand over and you stuck it down in the snow. And what was weird about it is that the wind where we were at, the wind was blowing down the mountain towards Mount Shasta.
Mm-hmm.
Sage smoke was going up the mountain against the wind. Mm-hmm. And I'm going, oh, that's strange. And then it wasn't 30 seconds later, and I was about 5 foot to your rear, and these two whirlwinds start kicking up. And it was like slow motion. You could see the snowflakes spinning in these two whirlwinds. One clockwise, one counterclockwise, and again against the wind. I mean, these things should have been forming behind you, and they're forming in front of your face. And I'm going, whoa, something's trippy here. Mm-hmm. And you could actually feel the energy that was there. And it wasn't 30, 45 seconds later, you hear from the southeast ridge, Yetahe, Chesu! Mm-hmm. And then you hear drums, Native American drums. And
there was nobody there?
No, yeah. And all of a sudden, the drums stop. Chay! And then the two whirlwinds went down to nothing. Mm-hmm. And I asked you, what's that mean? And you told me the spirits are with us.
Mm-hmm. They were.
And then the word chai is Yetahe is like a greeting, hello.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Chesu is the spirits are with you, and chai is the word complete. Mm-hmm. And that's when the two whirlwinds kicked down to nothing. And I looked over at you. You look like a ghost.
Yeah, downloaded.
The amount of energy that I guess you took was just, it overwhelmed you.
Yeah, it's quite a bit. I do have to say that.
We started heading back down the mountain, and I can still remember the blonde girl. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't make the decision whether to stop and pick her up or to keep on going.
That was your choice. That was your choice.
In my mind, I was still, I mean, I was drunk. I mean, I felt drunk in the spirit.
I have to say something here real quick with Wally. Wally don't do drugs. Wally doesn't go out and get drunk. Wally doesn't do any of this, And so, the experience is the reason I have him on is so he can tell you raw, what he experienced under nothing, no influence of anything, just his experience of supernatural and all the other things that he dealt with over time. So go ahead, Wally. Thank you.
Well, we just finished our day, headed back to Redding, and I guess this is the first time that I'd ever been out to your physical property. Mm-hmm. We was headed out there, and there's this one canyon that you go down a hill, and there's a canyon right next to it. And every time I went through that area, I would see what looked to be an Indian brave running through the trees, down through the canyon, and towards Bill's property. Mm-hmm. And
many people have seen that.
Wasn't sure what it was. I had no idea what it was. This was still all real new to me.
Mm-hmm.
Got to his place, and we were sitting there talking, and all of a sudden, the dog, George, goes over to Bill and kind of says, "Okay, I want to talk to you." Looks up at Bill, and
yeah.
they sit there and look like they're having a quiet conversation. And the dog finally stopped, and it was like, okay, conversation's over. I got to go lay down. So the dog walked away and sat down. And each time that we had got together, it was something bizarre. Something bizarre would happen. And it was like every time I look over at Bill, he'd get a shit-ass grin on his face, and I'd go, oh, man, what's happening now? And still to this day, when he gets his grin on his face, I know, hold on to your tush, something's gonna happen.
Mm-hmm.
But
well, shamans, the way we look at things, we teach in a different way. It isn't a classroom; it's experience, and that's just the way it is. Go ahead, Wally.
Well, the second time that we went out there was the orbs.
Oh, yeah.
Basically my introduction to orbs.
Mm-hmm.
The property that Bill lives on, to my understanding, after talking to him and doing a little bit of research behind the times, the Indians at the turn of the century were persecuted by the white man. Yeah, what happened, it was the second time it had been out on Bill's property, and the first time I'd ever been introduced to an orb, and we were out in Bill has little special areas and on his property, and this was kind of like the cement fire pit with that was covered over with a parachute, and we were out there talking, and
God, that was years ago.
Yeah, you got a strange look on your face, and between me and you, this powder blue
Mm-hmm.
ball of light just out of nowhere, just whoop, and it formed about the size of a basketball, imploded a little bit, and then exploded to nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that one formed, it was like flash bulbs going off all around us. I mean, hundreds of these things just coming into reality, imploding, exploding, and I mean, for about a minute and a half. And I'm going, whoa!
Mm-hmm. I remember
this
that.
was all new to me, anyway. It was, as I say, an oh shit moment, because I mean there were a lot of oh shit moments being around Bill.
You're a good man, Wally. You're a good man.
Well, hey, call it as I sees it.
I know that's what I want you to do. You betcha. Go ahead.
Well, that was the end of that event, and then the third time I was out of his house, we were out in his front drive area, looking off to the south. I was looking off to the south. He was looking to the north, and we're sitting there. I'm sitting there looking at him, talking to him there in his face. He says, "Wally, look up," and I look up, and off to the southeast, there's a ball of light that is just coming out of the southeast, transitioning to the southwest at just a high rate of speed, and then comes to a dead stop and then goes straight down to the ground. And I'm going, oh my God. And I think that the biggest thing that shook me is he wasn't looking at it. I guess he felt it.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you pointed it out to him. I'm going, and you're constantly looking to the north, so I see it physically come in and land. And I'm going, wow. And then a week and a half later, this is the first time my wife had ever seen a UFO. And we were out the same area within a couple, 2 or 3 miles of where Bill's house was.
Was that when you were in Happy Valley?
Yeah.
Okay.
We stopped there at the Four Corners, right there next to the big store.
Uh-huh.
And she goes, look at the shooting. Before she gets shooting star out of her mouth, the thing come to a dead stop and went straight to the ground. She said they're all dumbfounded, and I'm going, wow, that's like the one I seen last week.
Yeah.
And that was the first time with just me and her outside of without you being there. But
and what area was this? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Happy Valley.
No, what area did this craft come down in, do you think?
I took Google Earth, and it had to be the old gas point area. I took your property, and I took and cross-triangulated from where the Happy Valley store is.
Yeah. And
cross-triangulated, and it put it right just about the old ghost town of Gas Point.
Gotcha.
And then that was the time that after that is when we did the mountain, when we were up on the mountain.
Right, okay.
And seen the mountain spirits. And I guess my next time was me and my at the family reunion.
Okay.
When we had the fire elemental come out of the fire.
Ah, yes. You got a picture of that, as a matter of fact. I still got that picture.
We were. I'm sitting there. My uncles are sitting there trying to make this fire for about 45 minutes to an hour, and I walked up to him and I said, "Can I do this the Native American way?" And the first thing that you do with making a sweat lodge fire is you say a prayer. Well, I asked for grandfather to bring the fire people to the fire, or where I was making the fire, to help me build a fire for my family. And I set it up like a sweat lodge fire, like a kind of like a wooden teepee, and it lit right off. And within about a minute and a half, my cousin takes a snapshot of me and my cousins and my uncles out there next to the fire. And here is what looks like a fire angel. The fire was only coming up to maybe a foot and a half off the rocks. And this thing was standing in the middle of the fire at about 3.5 feet. And you can see the arms, the legs.
Well, you can see everything.
Yeah, of this elemental. And I'm going, oh my God! And that was one of the experiences by myself. When I've learned that basically, if you follow if you give respect to the elements, the elements will give respect to you. And so I give the praise to grandfather, and
everything worked out.
Yeah. It was beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next time would be 2004 when me and you went up to Bunny Flats with the two gals from.
Oh,
was
yeah.
me, you, Kathy, and then the two gals from San Francisco.
I actually forgot about that time. I'm glad you brought that up. Go ahead.
Well, we got to Bunny Flats. The road was blocked. We couldn't go up to the ski bowl where we normally go. And we started walking up the hill. There was a trail that led back up and around up on top of Bunny Flats. What was bizarre is as we're driving up to Bunny Flats, you could physically watch this cloud that was up on the mountain start descending down towards Bunny Flats. And as we're driving, we're sitting here watching this thing come down the mountain. It reminded me of that movie, one of the old monster movies.
Like the old Incredible Eye or Crawling Eye or something like that?
Yeah. With a thing coming down the mountain. I'm going,
I forgot about this. I totally forgot about this. Yeah. Go ahead.
We got up there, and you started, it was like you were in a trance, and I got inspiration that I needed to smudge everybody.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I started, smudging me, Kathy, the two gals, and as soon as I got the last person smudged, 4 mountain jays come out of this fog bank.
Mm-hmm. Right
towards us, and they stayed within like hand distance, landing on the ground in the snow in front of us, hopping around in around us, flying in and around us, and as soon as the sage wand stopped smoking, done. They went back. They went back into the fog bank, and then the fog bank, as we started heading back down towards the car, started going back up the mountain again.
To its original position. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, oh my God.
Wasn't that also they tried to take pictures and none of the cameras would work until we got back down to the car?
I don't remember that.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it has. Yeah.
Oh, the coyote.
Downtown. Yeah, go ahead.
We were in Reading. We were, we were driving around East Reading, and we were headed back towards on Old Alturas Road back towards the mall. And I was asking Bill, how does grandfather, answer our questions? And it wasn't 5 seconds. A coyote comes out of the brush, sits down in the middle of the frickin' road.
Yep.
And I look over to Bill and he says, kind of like that.
That's true. I forgot about that. That's good. Yeah. Very true. Yeah. Yeah. That's the way the spirit works. And people have to understand that.
Let's see, that's the only other time out there on your property. And I don't know.
Wally, there was one time that sorry to interrupt you there, but the handprints in the air. You still remember that one? For the 3 fingers?
That was just after the UFO thing.
That's right, yeah. Yeah, that's true.
If you can imagine, every time I think about this, I think about Jurassic Park.
That's interesting.
In the opening of the show, how the trees were shaking.
Mm-hmm.
If you can imagine,
go ahead.
This thing went around Bill's property, on the opposite side of the lake, and you could hear it was like a gorilla just shaking the trees, and
that's when something came after me at that time, and you were there. That's right. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Okay, and it came around the property, staying on the outskirts of Bill's property, and got around to the road where we had seen the UFO at, and there was like a two poles that were about 3 or 4 foot in height, with a chain and a chain going across the road, or the drive area, and you could see this handprint. It looked like three fingers and a thumb handprint at about maybe 6.5 to 7 foot in the air.
Mm-hmm.
Behind you and up in the air. I mean, the thing had to be huge, but there was nothing physically. It was like looking at like Kaelian photography, the static electricity coming off of Kaelian photography, like you're touching the electrical plate, and seeing the aura coming off of the fingertips, and that's what you were physically looking at in midair. It was bizarre. It was.
What was your feeling?
Another ocean moment, huh?
What was your feeling at that time? Basically, that was a good example, ladies and gentlemen out there, of your energy field. What you can do, you can put up a barrier between you and something else, negative forces, things of this nature. Please go on, Wally. What did you feel like at that point?
Well, it's another ocean moment. It's just another one of those. Oh my God, this is really happening, and you don't realize. I guess what I've gotten over the past 16, 17 years of being with Bill is I don't take anything for granted anymore. I don't. I when it comes to spiritual stuff, or when it comes to ET stuff, spiritual stuff, I take it all in and pay attention to the energy around me, and I don't feel like I'm not afraid of it, but I'm respectful of it, and that's what I think the shamanism does. Is it teaches you respect of everything.
Yeah. Yes.
And it's not just respect of man to man. It's respect of man, animal, plant, water. Everything is alive. Everything is living. And I go back to the Ho'oponopono. That Ho'oponopono is the Hawaiian shaman style of Hawaiian shamanism, and a doctor by the name of Howlin, and he basically, if he goes to give a talk in a building, he'll go into that building and he'll ask the room whether they want him to be there or not. Or he'll go to the chairs and ask the chairs, do you want me to be here or not? And it sounds hokey as all get out, but you get to the place where you balance energies.
Yes.
Balance. You ask permission. It's like going up in Mount Shasta. You ask permission, or you ask permission to if you're going to do a ceremony to do the ceremony. I mean, there were times that before we would get water, we'd be up at Mount Shasta.
Oh, the sacred spring, that's right.
We would go up to the headwaters. We would go up to the headwaters in Sacramento, and before we would take the water, we would give a tobacco offering, and then we would then do a sage, a smudge of the area to get rid of all the negative energies in that area. It makes, you start walking the red path, and it will change your life. It'll change the way you look at things.
Mm-hmm. It'd be nice if Congress, could turn around and learn the things that you've learned over these 17 years and experience things, because they sure in the heck wouldn't be doing what they're doing now. And one thing I want to ask you in this balance that you've learned and everything, what do you see? Could that really help America, if our leaders to turn around and realize some of these things?
If they would take time to understand it.
Mm-hmm. Bingo.
And see, that's the thing. It's a life lesson. It's not. Yes. It's a life lesson. It's an experiential. Until you physically experience it for yourself. There's people out there, the light workers and stuff like that exist, that they kind of stay to themselves because. Do I walk out into the street and start spouting this stuff to everybody that I talk to? No, I feel the person out and see if they're open to learning,
understanding.
Yeah, I mean, you start getting to the place where energy, you get sensitive, you get totally sensitive to the people, to things around you.
Good way to put it.
Well, it's the other day I lost my car keys, okay? Mm-hmm. And I sit there for 2 days looking for my car keys, and until I got quiet and started listening, okay, I went out for a drive, came back, and I got inspiration that I needed to stop the car before I got into my where I parked my car at. And it basically, the spirits led me and said, they're right there. They're right there in this area. Mm-hmm. And I got out of the car, walked over, and within a foot of where I got the inspiration from, they were my car keys.
Yeah, see, that's a great thing, because you're becoming in tune with the environment. It's in tune with the timeline. This is where dimensional things happen, time things happen, deja vus, whatever you wish to call them. A lot of things happen when you stop and you listen and you start feeling. And you're not feeling, with your fingertips. You're using your intuition, your higher self, that which is in connect, that balanced aspect of you when you start following the path. Now, Wally, we got about 5 minutes left and everything here. I'm going to give you an opportunity here. Something happened on my property, and as a matter of fact, you wouldn't come back and even see me for 10 months. And I'll let you explain that and what had happened and things of this nature. So go on ahead. I know you've been dying to do this for a long time, but go ahead. This is, ladies and gentlemen, before we go any further, this has to do with changing. You can all change. and let me tell you something.
Yeah.
Believe it when we're talking hybridization. Okay? Go ahead, Wally.
Well, first of all, we talked in past conversations about you being able to change.
Yeah, we only got about 5 minutes, so kind of.
Okay, so basically, your daughter, we're out there at your property. We were practicing playing with fire. We were doing some survival training.
Mm-hmm.
And your daughter yells across the pond, "Dad, the horse just broke its leg."
Mm-hmm.
And me being a sensitive sap, I'm very, an animal's hurt, I feel bad.
Yeah.
And I knew what you were going to do. I knew that you were going to go over there and put the animal down. And I was trying to put myself in your way. That way you wouldn't go kill the animal.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't 5 seconds, dude. I sit there and watched you turn from what I knew of as William WhiteCrow to a gray. And I'm going...
Facsimile of a gray.
Oh, my gray. Well, what? I'll tell you what. You look like a gray.
I gotcha. Uh-huh.
Okay. And
I shifted.
All I could hear in my mind was, "Get the hell out of my way." Mm-hmm. There was no conversation after that. It was all mental.
Yeah, we didn't talk to each other. Mm-hmm.
No, it took me about a month to talk to you again.
Mm-hmm.
But I left after you shifted. To physically come back in your present, it took me 10 months.
Sure, I remember that very.
And then, but we had conversations, and we still need to have more conversations about what I call your buddy.
Gotcha. I understand. Uh-huh.
Because there's a lot of things I want to ask, and to my understanding, you're a blended being.
Well, basically, hybrid. I've always told people that. I even told my wife, there's one thing that you have to understand about me. And she's had many, many experiences of things going on. Me affecting the electronics in the house, equipment, all kinds of stuff. Think cars can break down, all this type of stuff. Is when you really understand who you are and what you are, and you accept that, then other doors open to you, other realities that you can deal with and you can manipulate, shall we say. The aspect about me, I've always known who I was and what I am. And all of us have another being with us, shall we say. And it was an emergency situation, and I had to deal with something right there, right now, right fast. And that's why I was in the limited access programs, because the secret access programs knew about me, knew the abilities I had. And Wally got a chance to experience it firsthand. Yeah. It's very powerful. Yeah. Very powerful.
Oh, shit moment.
But we still got back together. We're still great friends, and we still talk, and I still teach, and he still asks many, many questions as a good student would, because he wants to know for himself. And people have to understand, if you're getting together with a real shaman, you're going to see some stuff that you're not going to see from anybody else.
Yeah. Hope
Definitely.
So.
Yeah. Okay, well, unfortunately, we've only got an hour, Wally, and everything, and it's been a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thanks, sir.
What would be your advice to anybody that's looking to be taught by a shaman, real quick?
You'll know. If you're dealing with a real shaman, you'll know. Mm-hmm. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. It'll be in the experiences that you have.
Good deal. Well, sir, I appreciate it, and thank you for coming on the show, because I told everybody I'd have a regular individual, some of my students and other people out, so they could get first-hand experience. And, I love that laugh. And so until next time, I will have you back on the show. This is William WhiteCrow telling everybody to live long and prosper, as Spock says, and I'll see you on the next show. Thanks again, Wally, and we'll have you back on the show here soon. All right, everybody. Good night. Good night.